Good evening. My name is Catherine Gallerani, and I am the reporter for the Carver Reporter and Carver Wicked local website. I want to thank our candidates for Board of Selectmen for coming this evening to the candidates debate on Area 58 Community Access Media. I will be asking questions of each of you. We're going to have opening statements of 2 minutes to begin, and alphabetical order. So first introducing Dave Robertson.
Hi, my name is Dave Robertson. I've been a Carver resident the majority of my life. The time that I haven't been here, I have traveled with my job. I've spent 6 years in the Navy. And my wife and I traveled while we were in the Navy, and we served for 6 years. And I say we served because I believe that spouses of people that are committing to service or to the community or to their place of worship should get the same billing as the person actually doing the service. I've been married 42 years. We live in South Carver. I have a son who lives in Middleborough and 2 absolutely beautiful granddaughters. And I am running for selectman because I want to be part of a team that is forward-looking, mission-focused, and cares as much about this town as I do. And I want to be part of that team. Thank you.
And next here we have Connie Shea.
Thank you, Kathy. Hi, I'm Connie Shea. My wife and I moved to Carver in 2003 and bought an old house in the historic district. It was built in the 1850s, and it took some work to get it back into shape. I'm here to run for selectman for the town of Carver because I'd like to see Carver get ahead of the curve rather than falling behind. It's time to look towards the future. We have a new school, new fire department. It's time to look forward to a new police station and possibly a community center. It's time to centralize this town and bring people together around the center of town while developing industrial and commercial businesses in appropriate places along 58. I want to take a minute to thank Area 58 for their time today, and take a minute to thank Dave for his service, because if we don't support the veterans, nobody will. Thank you.
Now I'd like to ask each of the candidates for the top 3 challenges facing the Board of Selectmen in the coming 3 years.
You get to go first last time, so.
Have at it.
I think with the coming wave of new residential growth and the expansion of the housing market, we have to get ahead of the curve. I think we're already falling behind and trying to catch up at this moment. We have a large development planned on quarter-acre lots here in North Carver, and I think it's time to establish ourselves as a town with proper development growth. I think we need to consider a variety of ways to help limit growth, to help expand Carver. We need tax-positive growth, not tax-negative growth. We need to expand our both commercial, industrial, and cottage industries in the town. I think those are the biggest factors that Carver's dealing with now. I feel that because the residents are the tax base of Carver, paying somewhere around 50% of all the taxes for everything that goes on in Carver, if we don't expand properly, then we'll never get ahead of this. It'll be the taxpayers that are always on the receiving end of the tax bill.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Robertson?
Yep, same question.
Yes,
What do I
please.
see the top 3 challenges for the Board of Selectmen? I think in any part of the world, whether it be in a corporation, whether it be in a community or any municipality, I believe the top concern for the towns right now would be the budget. But not just speaking of the budget, it's speaking of the budget, what services can we provide to the town and be fiscal responsible for that particular service. We have to pay for the services that we get. And the services that we're going to offer in the future are also going to cost more money. So we have to find a way to generate the revenue that will pay for these services going forward. So I believe that would be the largest concern in front of the Board of Selectmen right now. Maybe the second and the third could be combined, is we have many new buildings coming into town, and being able to make sure that they're maintained and make sure that their capital layout for the supporting equipment that is required for that is absolutely essential, that you plan now for the future. I think that's the three biggest ones in front of us.
Thank you very much. The next question is, do you think the town is going in the right direction with the reorganization of town departments, and why?
I think that we are going in the right direction in general standings. If you look at the business of a town, we're a $35 million budget, and it is organized like a small rural community. It's time that I think we take a look at this organization of this town and structure it in such a way that it makes sense for the people, for the employees that are working here, for our town services that require our needs. We need to know some hierarchy, some organizational structure, and I believe having it to look like a corporation will make it a better and more efficient way of operating.
I'm very impressed with the direction the town has taken in the past few years, just cutting costs and reorganizing for a clearer view on the standing of the town. I do think there's more that needs to be done. I think certain of the reorganization practices need to be looked at very closely. The town is the largest employer, employing about 36% of the town. I don't believe that outsourcing certain jobs is the answer. I'm all for the outsourcing of the assessor's department, as I feel there is a small conflict of interest there. But outsourcing jobs in the school, and which was brought up recently, is not the direction I would go in. I would look more to keeping these people. One of our biggest issues facing this town is $46 million in post-employment benefits that the town is behind on. That's something we have to concentrate on. We have to find a proper solution other than letting the people of this town that work for this town, that are enjoying the benefits of this town, go.
In particular, do you support the creation of a finance department?
I do. I strongly support that. Help streamlining the finances, and a proper order of there should be somebody at the top to control all the finances, that knows what's going on. It's a large department. There's a lot to deal with. Currently it's broken down into 3 different divisions, and it's very hard to keep track of all the finances in this town. I think streamlining it will make that more accessible to the people of this town, as well as the people that are running this town.
And Dave, what do you think?
I agree totally. I would hate to think that there wasn't some sort of one-stop shopping, somebody looking at the books and total operation. So I agree with Connie on that particular subject. I'm all for that.
Along the same lines, how about the Human Resources Department?
I think human resources absolutely needs to be addressed. The Human Resource Department is the police department of a corporation. It is the group of people that will oversee and protect the town, if you will, in certain areas. If we don't have that now, I think it's a liability issue by not having that. So yeah, for the Human Resources Department, I'm all for setting money aside now to investigate that, to see what some recommendation would come down, but I'm in favor of that.
I am in favor of it too. I feel that as the largest employer in town, you couldn't walk into any other company and not find a human resources. Human resources are for the employees' benefits. They're to help them understand what's available to them and the help that they can get. I think it's very important that this town has a proper human resources department, yes.
You had mentioned OPEB, the other post-employment benefits. Do you think the town's on the right track with its planning for that, or can it do more?
There's been a lot of talk about planning, but honestly, what more has been done to help alleviate it? As I understand it, OPEB hasn't gone down. It's gone up. And we have employees that are preparing to retire, and is the town prepared and not prepared to take care of them for the service that they've given this town? $48 million is a lot. Ask Plymouth. They have a new septic system to put in. That's roughly $48 million. If the town was up to date, maybe we'd be looking at less debt exclusion and a higher capital outlay fund to provide for new schools, new fire departments, new police stations.
And Dave, what do you think?
I think that that's taking care of the retirees or the people that have served well is absolutely a priority. They've put their life and heart and soul into this, and they absolutely need to be taken care of. The question was more towards what do I feel about that? Well, I think they're looking at it in a way, and I'm sorry I'm not an expert on this subject, and I apologize up front for that, but what I believe is happening is they are moving some money around to address some of those issues, people that are retiring and caping up. So I think it's being addressed. I think we're taking care of it. I'm just sorry I'm not the expert on this subject right now.
The Board of Selectmen and the school committee have been having meetings basically every few months, talk about issues that kind of divide them and maybe some that to unite them. What do you see as a relationship with the school committee?
I think that the school committee and the town administrator and the selectmen should absolutely be on the same page with, nobody's 100% on board with everything, but I absolutely see them working as a team. I think that they should be agreeing to each step of the way in their projects. And I think we have involvement in the building and so forth committee now. So I think it's heading in the right direction as a unified front, if you will.
And Connie?
I believe the town's heading in the right direction. I believe certain services need to be consolidated to provide a better buying power or strengthen what our taxes, how far our taxes can go. I believe a facilities department that encompasses the whole town rather than having split facilities. I believe the whole town would benefit from a single insurance plan and save money. That frees up more money for our town employees and for things that need to be done in town. It shows that the town takes an interest in what's going on. The last school building fell apart, and without proper maintenance and engineering, we can look forward to it again. The estimated life of the new building is 70 years. I went to a school that was well over 100 years old, and I feel that there's no reason that with proper maintenance and upkeep, the schools can last that long. Some I don't agree with, as I mentioned earlier. I don't think outsourcing of the people that serve our children dinner, lunches, breakfasts, needs to be outsourced. I don't think the janitorial staff needs to be outsourced. They need to be encompassed. They need to be brought in. They don't need to be pushed off to the side.
How do you feel about that area of possible
Outsourcing?
outsourcing?
I don't like the idea of outsourcing at all. I think that there comes a time, I think, where in outsourcing you will find somebody that's dedicated to a company, to a town, to a municipality, they'll work many hours unpaid for. But somebody that is outsourced, they're going to work the 40 hours that you pay them for. The dedication and the drive and the people that work in this town are dedicated employees. And I think as Connie said, the people that maintain those buildings, that staff, they put hours in and dedication in that people don't see. Outsourcing, you might not see that.
How do you, each of you, how do you anticipate becoming, an active member of the Board of Selectmen? What's your approach to your first year?
I lost track. Who's a?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I lost track,
I
too.
believe it's your turn this time.
What do I see my first year like? I see it completely on a drinking from a fire hose learning curve. There'll be just a gush of water coming my way that I'll have just samples of water coming in. I absolutely will dedicate my time to learning the curve and learning what needs to be done, but I have no unrealistic expectation of being a majority contributor right out of the bat. This is a total learning curve for me, so my first year is going to be total education.
And Connie, what do you say? What's your approach to?
My approach is I tend to speak my mind. Right or wrong, I suppose I'm going to be jumping in with both feet first. I do have some prior experience, or I should say education, in civil matters. I have a Bachelor's of Science from Suffolk University in Political Administration, so I'm in some ways familiar with the operation of small towns, but it's really the politics of the small town that's going to take some getting used to.
We are here with Dave Robertson and Connie Shea, and we are talking about they're running for the Board of Selectmen to take the seat that Dick Ward has decided to step down from. He doesn't want to run again, but here we are, and the election is from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, April 23rd at the Carver Middle High School Gymnasium, and we're on Area 58 Community Access Media. I think it's time for closing statements.
My turn, I guess?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. Closing statements. I want to thank Dick Ward for the service he's done for this town. He's done a lot of service over a lot of years. It's not an easy job, and there's a lot of people, and you can't please everyone. I know he did an excellent job for the time he was there, and I want people to know that I'm in this for public service. It's not a paycheck. It's a job that needs to be done and should be done properly and efficiently and looking towards the future. And I want to thank Dave here, who I've only met a couple times, but is an excellent person, and I don't think you can go wrong voting for either one of us. Thank you.
Okay. Dave?
I agree. I think Connie's a great guy. We've met in a most unusual way, but it's nice to be in a room with somebody that it isn't combative, and I believe that's what I bring to any team that I'm involved in. Is I am totally committed to the team. I know when to be led, and I know when to lead, and my job offers that. My attribute of integrity and of teamwork, and I listen to almost anybody that has a voice. Of course, I'll make my own opinions, and I will voice them accordingly, but I'd like to consider myself a total team player on this board. So, thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Kathy.
We'll be right back with the candidates for school committee. Welcome back. Again, I am Catherine Gallerani, reporter for the Carver Reporter and Carver Wicked Local website, and we are here for a candidates debate with the prospective members of the school committee. There are three candidates for 2 open seats. We have here Andrew Cardarelli, Gina Hanlon-Kavicki, and David McCarthy. And we will be allowing each candidate 2 minutes for opening statements. And we'll go alphabetically. So Andrew?
It's me? Okay.
Andy?
Hi, my name is Andy Cardarelli. I am running to be your next member of the Carver School Committee. I have lived here in town since 2004 with my wife Maureen. I am active in town. I've met many new terrific friends here in the town, have many great relationships, and it's a pleasure to live here in the town of Carver. I try to be as involved as I can. I am your vice chairman of the Carver Finance Committee. I am also on the new Master Plan Committee and on the Taxpayer Relief Study Committee here in town. I'm running to trying to bring the importance of obviously helping to fund the schools for the children and give them the best education possible. But I'm also looking into keeping the importance of families in the town and looking into keeping the budgets of all the departments, as I've done with the Finance Committee, in a stable mode so people can stay in the town and not have to be, some of the things we've heard on the Finance Committee is people have had a hard time with the ever-increasing tax bills they've had. But that's just part of it. I think with my talents on the fiscal end, I think I can look into the budgets of the school committee, and the people can be sure when we go to town meeting with a proposed budget that because I have experience with budgets and with the town departments, that when we come to you, the people of the town, to fund our committee, our yearly annual budget, that it's actually, that it's been scrutinized, it's been looked at, and I'm trying to squeeze every penny I can out of that budget without increasing taxes for the benefit of the kids, and to put the money into the proper place, which is between the children and their interaction with the teachers. So that's why one of the reasons why I'm running, and to try and keep education as local as possible as well. I was also an advocate against the Common Core in the town. Many people might have known me from that. And I worked on the ballot initiative to end Common Core here in the state. So those are just a few reasons of why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And Gina, you're next.
Yes, hi. Gina Hanlon-Kavicki, and I have been a Carver resident for about 12 years now. My daughter was 2.5 when I became involved with the school, so I've been working for about 8.5 years. I've done some school council and school committee. I have been vice chair 4 times, and I am currently chair of the Carver School Committee. It has been a long 8 years, but they have been wonderful. When I say long, I'm speaking of the new school building, but that has come to fruition, and that's wonderful. The school has been busy doing many things, and I am most proud of the new superintendent that we have hired. That was a task, but nonetheless, the committee took it on, and I feel we have done well. And I look forward to serving the citizens once again. Thank you.
Thank you. David.
Thank you. My name is David McCarthy, and I'm not a politician. I never have been. I never will be. I'm a school teacher. I've dedicated my life to the education of children. If you go around town, you'll see signs with my name on it, and at the bottom it says, "Kids First." Kids First is not a political slogan. Kids First is the guiding principle of my life. It's guided my personal life, it's guided my professional life, and I hope that that the voters of Carver will give me the opportunity to let it guide my political life, such as it may be. This is a job interview. That's the way I look at it. What do you want in a job interview? You want to talk about education, training, and experience. My education is as follows. I graduated from Wesleyan University. I got a master's degree from Indiana, and I got a doctorate in law from Rutgers University. What's my training? What's my training that's applicable to this position? I started teaching back in 1976. I'm certified in Connecticut, New Jersey, and Massachusetts as a teacher. I've been admitted to the graduate program at Bridgewater State University in educational leadership. I've taken courses on education reform, human and financial resources, school law. I have continued professional development throughout my entire professional career as a teacher, and with a particular attention to legal aspects of employee discipline, of student discipline, and confidentiality of parent and students, as well as the anti-bullying law. My experience is that I've taught that I currently teach at Silver Lake. I've been a Latin teacher there for the past 18 years. I've also taught at a public school in New Jersey. I'm currently on staff at Quincy College, where I've taught 7 different law courses, among other things. I've led workshops regarding school law for my district. I've also written policy regarding social media for the Silver Lake School District. I have chaired the reaccreditation committee for NEASC, the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. Bottom line is that I believe that I have the education, training, and experience that you want in this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask each of you, what do you think are the top 3 challenges facing the school committee? And go with Andy first, please.
I would think number 1 was the ongoing budget. Every year it seems to be a challenge. I know Gina knows this from experience. And we've overseen it as well with the Finance Committee, trying to work with them and the entire town. The other I think would have been more of a concern a little while ago, but I will mention it, is the ongoing rift between the school committee and the town. And I think there have been steps made, which is very encouraging, to bring those 2 entities together. And so, because we are one town, there in the past 10 years has been kind of a heated relationship, kind of divisive, and I'm glad to see it turning back. I've never liked divides in town. I think we're all one, and we are just the town of Carver. And the third, I think, I would imagine it would be the drug issue in town, and maybe slash seeing kids stay in school and not drop out, and giving them hope, giving them a future, and letting them know they have a future, so they don't try drugs maybe even one time. And I know the staff of the school tries to do a good job with that. And I know the new administrator, Neef, that's one of his priorities, is the drug issue in town as well. So I think those 3 would be my top 3.
Gina, please.
Oh, sure. So I have to agree a little bit with Andy. The budget is always challenging. To maintain and handle the budget, it's very intense work. A lot of the budget sets come from years past. We have to deal with Chapter 70. We have to deal with state mandates. We have to deal with funds that come in from the year before, but we have to spend within a certain year. We have to deal with funds that, although perhaps we'd like to buy something else, it can only be earmarked for professional development, for example. So perhaps the school has certain needs, but funds that might be there cannot be used for instance, buying pens or buying Chromebooks. It can only be used for professional development. So we have some issues, not that they're issues, but when it's presented, sometimes people think, well, they have X amount of dollars, why can't it be used that way? Because you can't. It's earmarked for certain area. The other thing is, and like Andy had said about the school committee and the Board of Selectmen have had the past 2 years have been very difficult. And it's unfortunate because I've been on the school committee a long time and we had a wonderful relationship between the Board of Selectmen and the school committee. And it has turned, I will be honest in saying, Ron and I have worked diligently, and we have turned a corner, so things are much better in that area, which is nice because the school committee always enjoys working with the Board of Selectmen. So it certainly has taken a turn for the better, and I hope that it continues that way. And I think some of the other things that, and it's not quite challenging, perhaps it's just developing policy. Sometimes policy, which changes, and we need to stay on top of policy for safety, for drugs, for things like that. So policy can be challenging because you always want it to be appropriate, legal, and to fit your needs within your school.
I think the three major areas of concern for me would be, number one, to maintain the quality education that the citizens of Carver have been able to find in the Carver Public Schools. I think we have a very good school system. And maintaining that is a matter of negotiating through the various challenges that have been formed by education reform. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education is constantly setting upon the local towns and districts onerous responsibilities. We're expected to do more with less. And I think that that perhaps is the greatest challenge that faces us now. The other thing that I'm interested in doing is pursuing the Later Start initiative. I teach at Silver Lake. I teach classes at 7:30 in the morning. I see kids come in, and it's not due to my scintillating teaching, but they're falling asleep at 7:30 in the morning. I think we need to investigate what we can do to solve that problem. The literature, the science is clear that teenagers need more sleep later in the day. Thank you.
The Board of Selectmen and the school committee have been holding semi-regular meetings to talk about issues that come between you. You both have mentioned the relationship. There has been talk, including about a perceived lack of trust over the budget. How would you address that particular issue?
You're addressing me, correct?
Yes,
So I'm not sure where the lack of trust comes from, honestly. The school committee openly at meetings goes over the budget from A to Z constantly. So anyone can go in and review the budget during the school committee meetings. It's built, and we start building it probably around October, maybe a little bit earlier for the next year. So I'm not sure where the lack of trust comes, but Scott has really started an initiative that he wants it to be as transparent as possible. And I agree with him, and I think it has been. I think some of the most confusion comes from, let's say the school needs erasers or a smart board. Well, we don't buy it in October because we don't know what our costs will be. We don't know what students are coming and going. We don't know who needs transportation. We don't know what the cost is of heating. We don't know what the cost will be if an elementary school roof unit should go. So at the end of our fiscal year, which is closer to June, we have X amount of dollars left over. Well, we know we need an eraser or a smart board. So at that point, that's when we purchase it. And I think people have a misconception that that is perhaps using all the money or not being transparent. It's always been on the needs-based budget. We build a needs-based budget and then a budget of what is realistic and present that to the town. And the school committee needs to always answer to the bottom line number, which we have. And in years past, if there's extra funds left over and we had a lack of snow or a lack of snow and ice removal, or it was really warm and we didn't have to heat as much, then that's money that the school has given back. And there's records of that. But going forward, one of the school committee's goals to say is we need items A, B, and C. We're going to go through our school budget in case there are other needs, but at the end of the year, we've said we need A, B, and C, and we'll purchase A, B, and C at the end of the year. So perhaps that transparency will put everybody on the same page.
How would you answer that,
Well,
David?
I think that perhaps the conflict between the school board and the Board of Selectmen arises out of a difference in leadership styles. Now we have Scott Neef, who I believe has already set the tone of being very conciliatory. Liz Sorrell, with whom I worked at Silver Lake, did have a style that was a little bit more confrontational. I think that Scott Neef is going to set a tone that's going to permeate the school committee and also the Board of Selectmen. As an example of this, Helen Maroney last year wanted to hold a forum on Common Core at the high school. Liz Sorrell did not believe that that was appropriate. When Scott Neef met with the Board of Selectmen and the school committee, he intimated that if he were in charge, maybe a different decision would have been made. I think that spirit of cooperation and conciliation is going to come from the top down, and I think that it's really going to be of assistance to the town as a whole.
Do you think that has been the perception, and how would you address it?
I think so. I think that Mr. Neef has been a welcome change in the town so far. People have known him and people trust him throughout the years as an instructor and as a principal. Now as the administrator, I think it was a good choice. I think he definitely has a more accepting, a more attitude, a more willingness to work together with other people in the town. So that is good. But I will. If I can answer your original question, I think one of the reasons, or a few of the reasons why there's a distrust between the school and the municipal side, is that because just speaking for myself on the finance committee, and we recommend we make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen, is that we had a really hard time getting numbers on an annual basis from the school to look over on anything, and as David said. Former Superintendent Sorrell did have a different way of doing things and more kind of, I hate to say the word combative, but just kind of leaving things, everything, she liked things being separate. And it was a hindrance, it was hard to, it seemed like at times they were purposely left off. The numbers were left away from us, because there is a certain amount of, the school department has its own charter and, under Chapter 70, and they are autonomous. So they do have their own leeway, and they can do things. But that's one of the reasons why things were purposely, it seemed intentional, and it was too bad because we never wanted it that way. We just would ask for certain numbers on certain issues, and it was like pulling teeth to get numbers out of the school department. So.
Point of order, if I may. I just disagree a little bit with that. Sometimes the town or the finance department would want information, except the superintendent cannot release information unless it has been released to the school committee first. So there are times that before the town administrator could get figures, the school committee had to review that figure. So if the school committee met on, let's just say, the 1st, but the town administrator had asked for figures on the 5th, well, the school committee has not seen the new numbers, so therefore it cannot be released until the following month. Exactly.
Right.
Now, perhaps that wasn't conveyed in a proper manner, but it's not as if the school committee was withholding any information.
Well, that's why I mentioned the former Superintendent Sorrell, because under her leadership, it seemed like it went on, and she was here for, what, 10 years? 8 years, 10 years? 10, yeah. As long as I've been involved, and it seemed things were, it's one thing to say 1 month, but when you make multiple requests for facts and figures and you don't get them, it's not just that's not just the period between meetings. So I understand your point, though.
Thank you.
Shared services have been a hot topic of conversation, particularly in regards to health insurance. Do you think there should be a single line item for the town and school health budget? David?
A single line item for health insurance?
Health insurance.
No, I believe that, the way things are set up now with the school side of the town budget taking care of its own health insurance is probably the best thing.
And why is that?
I don't see any significant, savings, any, tremendous, economy of scale coming out of, a merger.
Andy, what do you think?
I would think it would be, I'm okay with it myself.
With changing it or
Changing it. I'm okay for changing it. We actually were just at a meeting the other day that between the school committee and the selectmen, and they offered to create a revolving account for all of the town departments, that if there were any health insurance overages, they would take care of it and the school department wouldn't have to. Many of the people in the school department, or a few of them, 2 or 3 of them, thought it was a decent idea, but they wanted to let Mr. Neef have a year at least to do the budget with everything intact. And I understand that. That's reasonable to see how he does with the budget. But to Dave's point, that he doesn't see any impact, I will bring up something that I found just from being in meetings with our joint meeting. This is one of the things that maybe could have been reviewed and someone didn't catch. The school department overpaid their health insurance budget by $38,691 for 2 employees that were no longer with the school. One left in 2013 and another left in 2014. It wasn't caught until 2015 by the town. So, that's one of the things I would be looking at. If I was elected, to look at some of these numbers on an annual basis or more than an annual basis. But it's troublesome to me as a citizen, not just on the finance committee, that the town did get back $5,000 from that. So, but the town also lost, we basically lost $33,637 in taxpayer funds because no one was looking at the records, to see who was supposed to be on and who's not. And that's worrisome to me. So I think a single line item away from the school would be fine. Let the treasurer and the accountant take care of it. But I think that the school should be able to teach and not worry about take away as many fiscal items as possible. Let them concentrate on teaching the kids.
Gina?
If I may, Andy, the error that was brought to your attention isn't necessarily something as a school committee member that you would actually be aware of, only because you would get a bottom line number from the business manager. And you would not have information privy to who has a family plan, who is a child coming off of a family plan. So you may have baseline numbers, but you wouldn't have specific numbers. So you yourself as a school committee member wouldn't be able to look over that and say, John Doe no longer has any children, so he needs a single plan. You wouldn't see it on that definite scale. Not to say that there wasn't an issue, and that's correct, and that certainly needs to be managed. So therefore, my statement is, I'm not sure if it makes a difference whether it's on the school side or the town side. My biggest concern is when we had Superintendent Sorrell, she built her budget and her legacy, if you will, on what numbers she had and how she was going to provide the best she could for her students. When Scott came in, Scott is operating off of budgets that were already in the making. I was of the opinion Scott needs to decide what Scott wants to do to leave Scott's legacy. So when Scott builds his own budget and his own plan. Scott needs to decide, is it something that he wants to work with or he doesn't want to work with. As far as financially, there's really no savings if it's on one side or another side, because you have to buy the plans that you need to buy, whether they're family, single, who's retired, who's come, who's gone. So is there any real savings where it goes, whether it's the school side or the town side? No. But who manages it, that should be up to the superintendent to how they want to build and handle their budget, because they need to provide the best service that they can for the children of Carver. So if that's what Scott needs to do and he feels that that's how he's going to best enhance his legacy as a superintendent, then I feel Scott should make that decision. Liz was of the decision or of the mindset that that's how she needed to be a superintendent to offer the best for the children. Do I, as a school committee member, ultimately think it matters whether it's on the school side or the town side? No, it doesn't.
Can I respond to that real quick?
Yes.
Would you mind? Now, are you saying that as a school committee member, you couldn't request information from the business agent?
You can request certain information, but you couldn't request the level of the plans, because that's...
Oh, no, not the level. No, not the level, but you could request total numbers of people enrolled, to anybody who's left the plan, to make sure that they're gone.
Correct, but you probably wouldn't recognize that as much, because we have anywhere between 10 to 15 teachers at any year coming and going, and the plans change to who's on a single, who's on a family, who's been on their parents and is now on. So for you as a school committee member to pick that up is like a needle in the haystack. You would see baseline numbers, but you're not going to necessarily see that $30,000 error, because you're not going to be tracking every single teacher who's getting either a family plan or an individual plan. Do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what...
As a school committee member, you'll get bottom line numbers.
Well, on your agenda every meeting is people who are hired and have left. So you could actually use those. See, I'm used to drilling down on specifics in the finance committee, so you could actually use certain things.
You can't find out who's switching.
No, not switching, but who was gone.
Correct, but what if
Right.
you had a family plan and now you have somebody who's come in and they have a single plan?
No, that's fine. I'm talking about just people who are no longer in the system.
Correct. You could do a random, but you're not going to get an adequate, accurate one. For
understand.
instance, let's say I now am a teacher and I'm on a single plan, but I get pregnant. You don't have that right to know.
Oh, no, I'm not saying what I'm talking about.
That's what I was saying.
Right. Oh,
Sorry.
I'm just talking about people who have left the system, and to make sure they're, so you could ask for quarterly updates and make sure that all the people who are left check the register, the employee rolls, and to make sure we are not still paying for them after a certain amount of time. I think they can get COBRA, I think, or something, but that's just what I'm saying.
Oh, sure. It's nice to debate, Andy.
It is to me, it is.
It's nice.
As a question about the consolidation of facility services, how do you feel about that idea?
Who are you asking?
Andy?
Me. Of services. Excuse me. Was there certain service, town-wide, certain services?
Oh, the school and town facilities. Should it
I
be
think if the
separate?
school, I think that this town-wide, but I think if the school can do something more efficiently than the town can, and it's in their purview to do it, I think that's fine. If it's not a detriment to the school or the education of the kids, or gets in the way of the teachers or teaching, I have no problem with that. I would be willing to look at anything, and if it made sense, we would hear it. I worry about people who have jobs now in the school, especially Carver residents, losing their jobs. That's one of the things that bothers me. I have no problem with looking at figures and hearing proposals, but one of the things I would weigh heavily would be the human aspect and our citizens' well-being. We need more people employed in this town. We got to look after the people of the town first. So.
And David, have you thought about
Well,
it?
in terms of consolidation of activities or services, one thing that I would definitely oppose would be outsourcing of transportation. I believe that our bus drivers are second to none. I have a daughter with special needs, and I can't tell you how safe I feel putting my daughter on a bus with people like Mo and Jen Buffington and people like that are just great people, and they're they instill confidence. So I certainly would oppose that.
We are meeting with our 3 candidates for 2 open seats on the school committee. The annual town election is Saturday, April 23rd from 8 to 6 p.m. at the Carver Middle High School gymnasium. And it's time for closing statements. David, you can go first.
Thank you. Why am I running? I believe that I have something to offer based upon my education, training, and experience. I believe that I would be able to hit the ground running on the first meeting, being up to speed as to the educational issues that face the school committee. There would be no learning curve for me getting on the school committee. I bring to this position a certain eclectic background. I went to private school for 12 years. I've taught in the public schools for 23 years. I've taught on the college level for 10 years. We've homeschooled our children. I believe that I can bring to this job a certain breadth of experience that could very possibly benefit the children of Carver. Thank you.
Andy, please.
Hello. I would like to ask you, well, I hope that you vote for me on the 23rd. As you can tell, I'm not good with opening and closing statements. I never have been, I don't think.
You're doing fine.
Thank you. To the people of Carver, I hope to earn your vote on the 23rd. I've been a longtime advocate of yours, of keeping your families first, for keeping the government out of your life as much as possible. I would try to keep education as local as possible and try to make as many decisions away from government bureaucrats in Washington. And I'll try to do anything I can to keep education local and at the very top at the state level. I have been a long-time advocate for fiscal responsibility in town. And with the school, let's face an honest fact, the school has the largest budget in this town. And I want to put all that money towards the best interest of the children of the town. I want to see the infighting stop. I want to be a bridge between the town and the school. And I believe that, like I said before, if we come to the town, at the town meeting with a budget, with myself on the school committee, you can be sure that that budget's been gone through. And because I'm looking out for your best interest, because I want to see everybody be able to stay in town. I was an advocate for the new school in town. I didn't get to mention that. Sorry, I forgot that in my opening. I was a strong advocate for the new school in town. And some people think just because I'm on the finance committee that I want to gut the budget of the school committee. Nothing could be farther than the truth. I would not have advocated as hard as I did for a new school in this town, taking a tax increase for myself just to cut the budget of the school. I would never have done that, and I would never do that. So I ask for your trust, residents of Carver, and I hope that you can vote for me on the 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Gina, your closing.
I have been on the Carver School Committee probably for maybe 6.5 years. I have served many years as the vice chair. Currently, I am the chair. I have diligently worked on the new school. My most recent accomplishment would be hiring the new superintendent, and I have a working knowledge of the contracts that are currently in place. So I think it would be advantageous to have somebody who was there when the contracts were written and has this knowledge of what was negotiated. And we have a new superintendent. We have a town administrator that's been there for 2 years. So I think if one vote, if you would be somebody who has been there to know the working knowledge of what has been going on the past few years. Thank you, and I hope to see you on the 23rd.
Okay, thank you for joining us. Good evening.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.